We've been spending a lot of time talking about players the Grizzlies could add. We've been spending a lot of time talking about the way these young players have developed on the Grizzlies. What if I said there's a player that we haven't talked about at all, that fits both of those descriptions? He also was drafted last season by the Grizzlies, and his name is not G.G. Jackson. We're going to talk about that player and more coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host today, Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal right here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thanking you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. Appreciate you for always tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me and Joe Mullen. You're with me today for a solo episode. But continue to tune in to Locked On Grizzlies each and every day as we continue to bring you all things Memphis Grizzlies with all the latest. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. As I admitted, I have a competitive side, and it is and I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store, or you can go find it over in Google Play. Make sure you continue to like, comment, rate, review, subscribe, wherever you get Locked On Grizzlies, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen, wherever you watch, places like YouTube. Continue to let us know what you think about the show. But on today's show, we got a special topic. I've been had this one buried for a little while, and I haven't talked about this guy much myself, but there's a potential secret weapon developing for the Memphis Grizzlies. And when I say secret weapon, it's a guy that a lot of us haven't spent much time talking about, in part because he wasn't on the 15-man roster this past season, nor was he on a two-way contract or anything like that. But he was drafted in the second round with the 56th pick in the 2023 NBA draft. Tarik Biberovic, drafted by the Grizzlies last season, second round, and he was a draft and stash player. He was a draft and stash player. He's currently playing for Fenerbahce over in the EuroLeague and Turkish league as well, and he is balling. Now, when I say he's balling, let me, put this in context for you. You're playing in the EuroLeague. It's someone who's his age. He's 23, just turned 23. A couple months ago, well, close to 3 months ago at this point, 6'6", so he's born in 2001. So playing in the EuroLeague, he's not going to get, the most extensive playing time right now at his current age. So, but the numbers this season that he's put up, by the way, I said he's playing for Fenerbahce, which is one of the best teams this season in the EuroLeague, and Fenerbahce is actually got a lot of players that you would recognize on that team before we get into Biberovic's numbers, over there. Yeah, shout out to all the college basketball fans out there. You'll remember the big names like Nigel Hayes, played for Wisconsin. Scotty Wilbekin used to play with the Florida Gators. And then there's some more familiar names. A guy like Nick Kalaitis, who also plays, on that Fenerbahce squad as well. Jonathan Motley, former big man for the Baylor Bears, is another one. Tyler Dorsey played with Dylan Brooks at Oregon on some really talented teams. One team that went to the national championship. He's the lead scorer, one of the leading scorers on that team as well with Jonathan Motley. So there's a lot of talent over there, and older talent, by the way. So he's kind of, in the mix or whatever the case may be from a roster construction standpoint. But let's get into the numbers, because what Biberovic has done over there at 6'6" is he is shooting the ball really well. Again, 20 and 4. Fenerbahce went 20 and 14 in the Turkish league, and they went 23 and 5 basically when playing in the EuroLeague. So here's the thing. Well, 20 and 14 in the EuroLeague. But here's his numbers so far. In the EuroLeague, 25 games played, Tarik Biberovic averaged 7 points per game in a little bit over 15.8 minutes, 56.6 shooting from the field, 56.9% three-point shooting. And so again, 56.6% shooting from the field, 56.9% from three-point range, and not on just we're talking about on 1.5 makes per game and over 2.6 three-point attempts. So he's getting some shots up when he's playing those 15.8 minutes. Then his in the basketball Super League, in the Turkish league, with Fenerbahce, his minutes have got extended. In 24 games, played close to 22 minutes. As a result, still shooting over 51.7% from the field, 40% from three-point range, still with 1.5 makes, and 62.9%, basically 63% on two-pointers, and averaging over 10.4 points per game, as well as 3 boards and 1.5 assists. The point is, this guy is developing into a shooter, which we know the Grizzlies have needed. He's having easily his best season, as a professional basketball player. He spent a lot of time, playing in the pros. This is easily the best season we've seen him have, as a pro up to this point, which all should be encouraging, for the Grizzlies fans out there. The comp that you see a lot as it pertains to Tarik Biberovic is Bogdan Bogdanovic. If you remember Bogdan Bogdanovic, he was drafted in the top 10 by the Phoenix Suns, and he was a drafted stash player. I think the Suns, I don't remember the situation, but he didn't come immediately to the Phoenix Suns, and he was a hot commodity at that point. The Suns ended up trading him to the Sacramento Kings. So when he debuted, he played with the Kings, and he eventually was in that trade came to the Atlanta Hawks when Kevin Huerter left the Hawks and went to the Kings. And now with the Hawks, he's one of the best six men, in basketball. But he played with Fenerbahce, just like Tarik does now. And here's a write-up that I saw on Biberovic, basically saying the 23-year-old forward from Turkey has played professionally in his native country since 2018, and this season has been his best by a mile. And some areas of Biberovic's games may remind you of Fenerbahce legend Bogdan Bogdanovic, as he can really shoot the ball from downtown and use his size to score. We know the Grizzlies are loaded on the wing, but this guy's profile pretty much screams potential Luke Kennard replacement. And I think this possibly even goes into affecting the draft strategy of the Memphis Grizzlies. 6'6", just like Luke Kennard, shooting the ball very well. If for those of you who aren't familiar with the EuroLeague, it's easily without a doubt the second best professional league in the world. I just listed some of those names. A lot of those players, Scotty Wilbekin, Nigel Hayes, we've seen Nick Collectis, play, with the Grizzlies and whatnot. Like, a lot of those guys could play in the league. Like, they're better than some of these players getting 10-day contracts, with all due respect to those guys. But they're older players. The league NBA is all about going younger and things like that. So you got guys like Nigel Hayes, 29. I think Scotty Wilbekin's 31 at this point. And you got guys like Mike James, who's a dominant scorer in the EuroLeague or whatever the case may be. So a whole bunch of talent over there. And this guy is shooting the peel off the ball. I just pretty much gave you what he's doing in Turkey, what he's doing in the EuroLeague for Fenerbahce. In both cases, big sample sizes, enough to say he's a solid three-point shooter. We're talking about a 49-game sample size if you combine his entire season with Fenerbahce. And in 25 games, shot 56.9% from three-point range, then shot over 40%, in playing in the Turkish league. So all in all, I think this guy is he's the secret weapon right now, it feels like. And there's a lot to uncover there. We're going to uncover more on him, in the second segment, as he talked about potentially joining the Grizzlies real soon. There's an article that's out about Tarik Biberovic and his potential with the Grizzlies. And if you want to keep up with him in Fenerbahce, they're playing right now in the playoffs against Monaco, and they play tomorrow on Friday. So you can check him out. I think the games are pretty much early in the day. So check out Fenerbahce. You're going to see him. He gets rotation minutes. Again, a lot of the older players that I just named, Scotty Wilbekin, the Nick Collectors of the world, Jonathan Motley, those guys get most of the minutes, but he is going to see probably 15 minutes or so of playing time. And you can get a clue. He's 6'6". He has a nice frame, can play the 2, can play the 3. But the most impressive part is the shooting potential and what he could bring to the Grizzlies. Like I said, Luke Kennard team option this year. Let's say the Grizzlies pick it up. I've kind of alluded to the idea of adding in the draft. Well, guess what? They maybe already added in the draft. And he's a draft and stash guy who has the potential to, stay in the EuroLeague a little bit longer. But we're going to talk about all of that in our next segment here. The business side. There's a lot of business side things that are going on with Biberovic. Now that we've talked about him and familiarized ourselves with him as a player, let's get into the business side and what he had to say about his potential prospects of joining the Memphis Grizzlies soon. But before we get to that, we got to talk about today's show is brought to you by Monopoly Go. And it's also brought to you by eBay Motors, because millions of parts for your MVP win every time with the parts that fits your ride. Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships, and also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die vehicle, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time. And if it doesn't, you can get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're buying rubber, not cash. So with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items apply. Eligible items only, and exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk about Tarik Biberovic, from the business perspective. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. I am Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal right here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thanking you guys for tuning in with us on today. We're talking about a guy that I feel like may be a secret weapon. I watched the last Fenerbahce game just to get a little bit more of an idea of just what his playing time is looking like over there in the EuroLeague and whatnot. He only had 2 points in that game that I watched. So the game I watched would be the game where he pretty much didn't do much. But you watch his highlights, you watch the comfortability. He had a big buzzer beater earlier this season. I know some of you in Grizzlies Nation saw it fade away, at the buzzer, turnaround shot. He looks comfortable. The 3-point shot is smooth. And he didn't – you watched him in the Summer League with the Grizzlies last summer when he played. Didn't really stand out, but didn't really get huge opportunity, like some of the other guys who were there. Jake LaRavia, David Roddy, G.G. Jackson, Vince Williams. All those guys were playing with the Grizzlies in the Summer League last summer. So he came off the bench for the most part and didn't really get extended opportunity. But at 23, he's been playing professionally pretty much since he was 15 years old. There's a lot to like there, but let's get to the business side of this, because a lot of you may be wondering, can he play with the Grizzlies right now? What the situation looks like and all of those things. And let's start with the fact that on the business side, in his contract, his contract with Fenerbahce, there is an opt-out every single season for the NBA. His contract ends in 2026 with the EuroLeague squad, but at the end of the day, he has a contract. He has a contract where he can opt out each offseason. So you might say, well, why not simply just opt out, this offseason and join the Grizzlies? Well, that decision is going to be up to the Memphis Grizzlies more than anything. And in an article that I read that was written recently, about the situation by Georgios. I'm gonna mess up his last name there. So he had a terrific EuroLeague story written about how Tarik Biberovic grew to love the EuroLeague and kept his NBA dream alive. in that story, he talked about again those exact things, and the words used in the story is depending on whether the Grizzlies get a lottery pick or not. They will decide if there will be an extra roster spot for Biberovic next year. So that pretty much sums it up for you. He is unlikely, I think, to join the Grizzlies this upcoming season, unless there is some roster changes from the standpoint of if the Grizzlies trade, for example, their first round pick, and they end up not, like they trade another player in addition to that, like they trade their first round pick, maybe trade Zaire Williams, John Conchar, one of those wings that we kind of talked about for a while. So you open up 2 roster spots and you bring in one player back. Then you have an extra roster spot open up as a result of that. That is a case scenario where bringing Biberovic over this offseason makes sense. But that seems like an unlikely, case scenario. So with all that being said, it still feels like the Grizzlies will, let him play in the EuroLeague one more year, and he could be a potential add for the team for the 2025-2026 NBA season. I think that's the most likely case scenario in that case. But will he join the Grizzlies at Summer League? We're going to talk about that in a second. But before we get to that, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Well, if you are, then look, I already know. You got to turn it down a little bit. You got to turn that volume down a little bit because of all that shouting that might wake the kids up in your living room or in the room. But just make the switch over to Locked On Sports today, because that free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that hooping and hollering. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. So will Tarik Biberovic be with the Grizzlies each and every single day this summer? That's still up in the air. Right now, I would say that the Summer League is unlikely. It has not been ruled out as an option, for him, but it doesn't sound like that is the route that he's expecting to take this summer, and it doesn't seem like that's the route that the Grizzlies, are expecting him to take this summer as well. He said that, again, despite, he's had conversations with the Grizzlies as recently as with, last month, he met with the team. It's hard. He admitted that it's kind of hard for him to keep up with everything that's going on, with the Grizzlies and whatnot, because, the Grizzlies usually playing in the morning time, and that's when he's practicing. So hard for him to keep up. But as far as everything else goes, he says there's nothing clear from both sides. I'm here with Fenerbahce, and we'll see what's the best thing in the summer. So he said he doesn't think that he'll be playing in the Summer League, but the Grizzlies and Biberovic have not talked about that. So once his season ends, again, they're in the playoffs right now. That's when Biberovic and the Grizzlies will talk things like Summer League, and they'll have roughly a month or so to make a decision on what's next. I'd love to see him in the Summer League. We talked about the Grizzlies building this super team in the Summer League with Scottie Pippen and G.G. Jackson and Trey Jemison, and plus a potential first-round pick. Now add, Biberovic to the squad. Now you got your a better shooter than all of those guys, and with G.G. Jackson scoring potential. And, oh my goodness, that Summer League team would be the team to beat in Las Vegas. So that's your update there on Tarik Biberovic. He's playing really well. Again, Fenerbahce right now they're in the playoffs, playing against Monaco in a series. So you can keep up with him, in the next few coming days in his performances. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about it as the time closes in as well. But don't forget about him. Do not forget about him, because his play this season has been better than any previous year. I don't know what the Grizzlies saw from a projecting standpoint from a 22-year-old when they drafted him, but his age 23 season has turned out to be a good investment. And now Memphis has another solid three-point shooting wing waiting in the wings as the roster crunch kind of unfolds over there. So that's pretty much the situation there. The Grizzlies have Another guy in Biberovic, 6'6", good size, really good shooter who can really impact the roster soon. Another guy that could potentially impact the roster, maybe Jonas Valanciunas. Could a reunion possibly be in store there? And we'll talk about that next on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. Look, sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest, whether it's big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you. So it's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. So today I want to say how I really feel about something. And look, you might even be thinking the same thing. Most of you know, I still haven't let it go until the Grizzlies clean up this, what I feel like was a mistake in trading Steven Adams. Now you got this big void that you have to fill at center. And we never got to see the full band together. We never got to see John Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr., Steven Adams. So I'm not completely over that. But guess what? There are bigger examples out there because therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team. And it's important to get these things off your chest every once in a while. And if you're thinking about doing that, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and it's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off of your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off of your first month. This episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. Here's the thing about DoorDash. Look, I use DoorDash a lot. Sometimes I get hungry and I go over to my DoorDash app. I got my address already in and I get me, some chicken. It gets here 20, 30 minutes and still fresh. My order's always fresh. So take advantage of DoorDash and all the great opportunities you have there, because also this is the perfect opportunity to take advantage of DoorDash because Mother's Day is coming up. For all you with the mothers out there, you want to make mom smile? Well, start your Mother's Day with some flowers or surprise her with a nice gift, that she loves. And it all can be delivered in the same day. If you're last minute like me, give DoorDash a try for that last minute gift because moms are a gift. So give her the best. Give her the best thing this Mother's Day. Get some gifts as thoughtful as she is with DoorDash. Select from hundreds of expertly crafted bouquets to the best of the tech to self-care essentials and more, delivered right to her door. If mom has a sweet tooth, maybe she's an enthusiast, a beauty connoisseur, whatever the case may be, bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout gear, all of this is available. And you can go get it through DoorDash. So get all your Mother's Day's gifts and all in one place. Get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 plus on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with Locked On NBA as the code, with the code Locked On NBA. That's Locked On NBA. And all you got to do is order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. So get a Mother's Day gift as unique as she is with DoorDash. Use the code Locked On NBA to get 50% off that next order for your mother. Coming up here next on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk about Jonas Valanciunas. Could a reunion be in the works with the Grizzlies? Stay tuned for that. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. I am Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thanking you guys for tuning in with us on today's show. A lot to uncover. We spent the first two segments talking about Tarik Biberovic playing over at Fenerbahce right now, having a nice season. Numbers won't really wow you overall, but he looks like a player who can come over, be productive, and basically, fit a role that the Grizzlies need. Another big-time potential three-point shooter, guy who's making a lot of three-pointers over in the EuroLeague, which is the second best basketball league in the world at the age of 23. So that's impressive. But the reason we haven't talked about him much is because we spent so much time talking about the Grizzlies and upgrading the center spot. What do the Grizzlies need to do at center? Who's a fit there? And again, we talked about the playoff options recently, right? We talked about Isaiah Hartenstein, Goga Batadze, potentially some other guys out there. But one name that we did not mention is one former Grizzlies that I saw it on X a little bit. I saw Grizzlies Twitter, Grizzlies X, whatever you want to call it. I saw y'all out there mentioning the idea of Jonas Valanciunas returning to Memphis. And I saw it briefly. And I shook my head. I was like, no. Let's not forget why Jonas Valanciunas was traded from Memphis in the first place. Like, two things can be true. Yes, he would be an upgrade at the center spot based on what the Grizzlies currently have. But no, he is not a championship piece for the Grizzlies in that situation. He is not a fit for the Grizzlies in their current situation. Let me explain. As we've said in the past, the best case for the Grizzlies, when I was talking about Isaiah Hartenstein, low usage offensive guy, a guy who's going to just rebound the ball, make plays, block some shots, active defender. And a lot of the things that I just said do not really apply to Jonas Valanciunas. He's a terrific back to the basket scorer. Offensively, bruiser. He's going to set some hard screens and all of those things. But he needs the ball in his hands a lot of times to be effective. You're not going to see him catching alley-oops, rim running, and things like that too often. He is a back to the basket, low post, back you down, get to his spot. You either foul him or he converts. The Grizzlies don't need that because they already got to figure out how they're going to share the basketball between Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, we know how they're going to share the ball between those three guys because we've seen a lot of it. But at the end of the day, the point is you're going to have three guys who are going to roughly average around 20 or more points per game next season between Jaren, between Dez, and between Ja. They don't need another guy because Marcus Smart's going to average double figures if he's in that starting lineup as well. They don't need another guy at center who's going to be a 15-point, 16-point type of guy like Jonas is very capable of doing. They need a guy who's going to catch some lobs, put pressure on the defense, and then be terrific on the defensive end, a very mobile defender. If you watch the Pelicans, there are a lot of games where Valanciunas isn't closing games because he is that big bruising center who's more of a throwback. He's not in the game when you're playing those teams like the Clippers who like to go small, and he's just not a fit. You need a center with a little bit more versatility. You need someone who's going to be put some pressure on rim running because Jaren Jackson Jr. Is giving you that low post presence that he wasn't pretty much known for in his earlier years when he was playing alongside of Jonas. But at the end of the day, Jonas needs the ball on offense, and the Grizzlies don't need a center that plays that style. So I'm glad we got that out of the way because that whole style of center is not what the Grizzlies need. Anyone who is more of an offensive-minded center, better with the basketball in their hands, self-creators, it's not really what the team needs. You just need someone who's going to catch a couple alley-oops here, block shots defensively, get some steals, wreak havoc on that end, and that'll fill the void. That's it. You do not need Jonas Valanciunas. I do not expect the Grizzlies to go out at Jonas Valanciunas. And that's that. So now that we've covered that, and we talked about Tarik Biberovic in this episode of Locked On Grizzlies, we'll have a lot more to uncover in the upcoming days here on Locked On Grizzlies. But don't forget that Locked On has launched the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. Make sure you continue to tune in to Locked On Grizzlies as we finish out the week on our next episode. We're going to make sure from going forward, we'll keep you checked in with Tarik Biberovic. I'm going to try to tune in to more of his playoff games against Monaco in that playoff series. So we'll have some updates on him as well as potentially the decision that's going to be made on whether he'll play in the summer league and all of those things as well. So appreciate you guys for tuning in with us on Locked On Grizzlies. And remember, Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get your podcast. I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Grizzlies.